BCB presents Pro Wrestling Weekly.
Enough is enough, and it's time for a change!
I can't believe I'm putting my voice to this.
Call in with a question or comment at 215-949-3232 or 888-922-2149.
Thank you for your irrelevant opinion.
And now, here's your host of Pro Wrestling Weekly, Fearon.
The first thing you need to do is to tell these people to shut up if you want to hear what I gotta say.
I'm a broadcast journalist. I have a right to my opinion.
Oh, son of a...
I am the best on this microphone, in that ring, even at commentary.
There's the sound of the bell, and we are off. This is Pro Wrestling Weekly, entering 2014 here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com. Closing in on 15 years on the air, the longest-running pro wrestling radio talk show in the history of terrestrial radio. And I'm your host, and I'm damn proud of it. Where to start with this new year? Thankfully, there's no New Year's schlock to try to do Auld Lang Syne as a parody song, too. Although that may come in future years. I don't know. We'll see. Well, I guess there are a couple of big stories to come out of Raw, one of which involving Daniel Bryan. And this past Monday on Raw, he was booked essentially in a gauntlet match against all three members of the Wyatt family because he wanted a shot at Bray Wyatt, and the only way to get it was to go through the other two members of the Wyatt family, Luke Harper and Eric Rowan. So, well, Bryan got his shot. He beat up Luke Harper, pinned him, then pinned Eric Rowan after that, and he got to Bray Wyatt, and the other two members of the Wyatt family jumped him for the disqualification. And, well, after the match, something a little unexpected happened.
I'm afraid, Brian, this is where our story ends. I have no mercy left to give. It could have been different. It could have been better. It could have been perfect. And this is your fault. I'm going to punish you. I want you to open your eyes. Open your eyes and look at your dismay. Open your eyes, Brian. This is the end. You're right. Say it again. Say that again. You're right. Say it again. Get up and say it again. Say it. You're right. You were always right. No matter how many matches I won, no matter how loud these people cheered for me, you were always right. The machine would never let me win. No matter how loud you people chanted, you chanted yes in every building I've ever been to. And they don't care. I'm yours. Let me join the family.
Yes, Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family bringing in Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan requesting to join the family. Kind of the whole, if you can't beat them, join them. That old adage, that old mentality.
Why would you want to join up with Bray Wyatt? I don't understand. If you really think about it, he's a coward. Because he basically he just finishes the job. You see Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, they get in the ring, they beat the crap out of Wyatt, and then Bray, not Wyatt,
out of Daniel Bryan. I know what you mean. Go
beat
on.
the crap out of Daniel Bryan, and then Bray Wyatt comes in the ring and just basically Sister Abigail's him and wins. If
You're a lot like this storyline. You're all backwards today, Lucas.
Yeah. You can't, plus the fact that I don't even think Bray Wyatt's that scary. You can't be scary looking like you just walked out of Tommy Bahama. I'm sorry. I have to get that off my chest. It's you can't.
I'll have to look in the archives. I think that joke might have already been used, but I don't know. We do have new listeners, so maybe it was funny for them.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I'm one of them.
Yes, Nick Cataldi pushing the buttons, turning the dials.
I'm one of the new listeners.
I mean, if I was facing the Wyatt family and I wanted Bray Wyatt and I saw Luke Harper and Eric Rowan about to get in the ring, I'd be like, whoa, Schmuck Dynasty, relax, buddy. Hey, he sends his cronies to do his work for him and then he gets in the ring and pins it like he did all the work. It's just stupid.
Sounds like around here.
Hint, hint.
Very true. The hell am I going to do with the
kidding.
both of you? What am I going to do with the both of you? It's a new year. I would say I'd resolve to be nice, but I think I've already killed that in the first 12 minutes of the show.
Yeah.
And 5 minutes of that was network news. So, yeah, needless to say, I think I lasted about as long as most people's resolutions. But yes, I don't know. I guess the question is, where is WWE going with it? Is this a way to get Daniel Bryan out of the main event picture? Is it a smokescreen to have him possibly come back and win the Royal Rumble coming up in a few weeks? I mean, we are, 3 weeks and a day away from the Rumble, and there's still a lot to be determined. Only 2 matches are set on the card, and one of them we knew about pretty much since forever, the 30-man Royal Rumble match itself, which there are no participants officially announced yet, and that's always the big lead-in, is seeing, all right, who's in, who legitimately has a chance, who is just there to be 2 minutes of filler.
I'm saying that, he may not win the Rumble because he is tag team. I'm saying Cody Rhodes. He's always somebody to watch for at the Rumble. He always lasts pretty long. He gets a sizable amount of people out of the Rumble. I'd say he's somebody to watch always in the Rumble match, especially with Goldust now, considering he's in the tip-top shape. He's the Rhodes brothers.
As we get closer, as they announce more names, and something that WWE's done, really you've seen a lot of it over the last decade, is they'll leave a few names off and they'll end up being kind of surprise nostalgia entrants. And we saw that last year with Goldust. We saw that with Chris Jericho, who, talk about being the best in the world at what he does. Going to the ring, staying in there for over 43 minutes, entering as number 2. And, as he had said in various accounts, he did all that with a hangover. That is impressive.
The funny thing is that what was I going to? There was I was looking at a forum online for wrestling, and this kid made this guy, I don't know if it was a kid, but this guy made a really good point, and it was, imagine if they hadn't leaked everything and they had Batista come back at the Royal Rumble and he stayed. Imagine the pop if he had come in at number 30. Imagine what the reaction. It would have gone insane.
Yeah, although, I don't know. I mean, Batista's been gone for a fairly long time where, granted, it's the Royal Rumble, so you're going to get, it's like WrestleMania. Being one of the bigger pay-per-views, in my opinion, the second biggest pay-per-view of the year, although WWE promotes that SummerSlam is that, but they always have it in Los Angeles. It doesn't really travel. I think, for me, the Royal Rumble is always that because it's that lead into Mania. So, for me, it's always been the second biggest pay-per-view of the year. You're going to get more. You're going to get the more hardcore fans who they'll remember Batista's music. It won't just be a bunch of 6 to 12-year-old Cena boppers.
Yeah, it's funny though because I understand Kurt Angle's in TNA, but if he had not been in TNA and it's in Pittsburgh this year, imagine what would have happened if they had brought Kurt Angle back to WWE at the Rumble. What do you think would have happened? That would have been
well. Not that I want to foreshadow or look ahead or anything like that, and obviously there's a lot of time between now and the next year's Rumble 2015. But in July, I believe, Kurt Angle's contract with TNA expires.
Yeah, but do you really think he's gonna go back to don't you think it would sort of be it's either this company or maybe I'm not just going to wrestle anymore. I mean, he's heading. Is he in his 40s or what's going on? Like,
Kurt Angle is in his mid-40s. I think he's either just turned or will turn soon 45.
Let's face it, we're not going to see a lot of Ric Flairs anymore. The guys that are like going until they're in their 50s, 60s, wrestling until then. You won't see a lot of them anymore. Which is sad.
No, but what you have seen as a growing trend in WWE really over the last few years is this kind of part-time resurgence. You've seen a lot of part-time wrestlers. Jericho comes in on and off. He's in his 40s. Triple H, he's been wrestling on and off, even though he now has the corporate, the CEO thing going on. He's in his mid-40s. The Undertaker, he's become a one-match-a-year show, although this past year he did a few more, including going over on the England tour. But even still, he's in his upper 40s. But yeah, as far as going into your 50s, that's just something that Vince never really liked to do. I mean, when Kevin Nash wanted to come back, he wanted to keep his silver gray hair, whatever you want to call it, and Vince was like, no, I don't want my wrestlers looking old. Well, first of all, Vince wouldn't say wrestlers. He'd say, I wouldn't want my superstars, my sports entertainers looking old. So were you okay, looked like you were about to chime in on that, Nick, but...
Well, I could.
You can if you want.
I'd like to see... Oh.
What's wrong with wrestler? It's called wrestling. I'm kidding.
Yeah,
but
that's...
not really when you think about it.
Vince McMahon, you have to realize, I mean, he's in Greenwich, Connecticut. He's around a bunch of people with money. So they look at professional wrestling and they look down on it like, this is what hillbillies watch. You're associated with this, and that is a stigma that he's been trying to dissociate himself with for really the last 30 years. I mean, ever since he was competing with Ted Turner when he bought WCW.
I doubt that could happen simply because his father also had a piece of the action, too.
Well, true. It's a family business,
exactly.
But he, I guess, after hearing it all these years, he thinks, I don't want this to be a wrestling company, even though that's what it is. He wants it to be an entertainment company. So he's been doing whatever he can, apart from eliminating the ring and basically having it as a stage as opposed to a ring, to try to dissociate the word wrestler, the word wrestling, from what it is, which I know.
With all that screaming and yelling they do in the ring and all that little bit of wrestling, I can understand what you're saying. Nowadays, they do a lot more yelling than they do any wrestling.
This is true, and there's more talking, more comedy.
Right.
They're trying to there isn't even really much of that anymore.
Well, it used to be a lot.
It used to be the best storylines, like Nexus Cena. I'm gonna bring this up, but that was a really good storyline, especially because you got the fans attached, and it
brought a few people back who had already kind of dissociated themselves with wrestling over the course of the latter part of the first decade of the 2000s.
And you got to think another thing is like, the fans could care less whether or not you want wrestling or wrestler, WWE superstar. They want people that are good wrestlers. They want people that know how to move in the ring. They want people... Like, I don't want to see Xavier Woods and R-Truth go out and make a fool out of themselves every single week. I mean...
But you're subjected to it anyway.
Yeah. I mean, like you said to me a while ago, it shouldn't be about what Vince wants to see. It should be about what the fans want to see.
You would think, but I mean, Vince for years has always thrown out these. I could probably throw together a list of a good 10 names off the top of my head of guys who weren't good, but were just out there because they were large, because they were tall.
Did you guys know that Santino Marella was actually a judo champion? He could kill me with a napkin, and then Vince makes him go out with the tube sock with the snake on it, and makes Great Khali charm it. Like what's the deal? Why would you want to do that? You could have somebody... Vince
thinks that comedy sells.
You need to think... If you want to be a comedy show, go on Comedy Central then. Don't go on NBC. Don't, like...
Why not?
Well, the TV contract is coming up soon. Maybe Comedy Central will be in the bid.
Yeah, but
no, they have much better programming.
I would think NBC has a much wider range than Comedy Central.
Yeah,
this is true. Also,
I mean, you have to look at.
Well, NBC Universal, I guess, is
major network.
I'm just saying, like, why do you want it to be more comedy than wrestling? This is like.
I don't know. Apparently the goal of the writers is to make Vince McMahon laugh. Why do you think there's so much toilet humor thrown in there? That's what got Titus O'Neil so high on Vince McMahon's thing, because he's able to vomit on cue. That's what that whole Thanksgiving thing was.
That was actual. He actually.
I didn't know about this.
He actually.
Yeah, that's what got him it curried him in Vince McMahon's favor.
Did he actually?
He can puke on command.
Did he actually vomit?
Yeah, that's
what a talent.
Oh, poor Michael.
Yeah, except you know what happened to the last guy who did that?
What?
You know what? I'll tell you during the break. I'm sure there are a few people listening who just groaned and put their hand in their head that I even
like I did.
Brought up Darren
I didn't
Droz.
groan. I laughed. I couldn't help it. God.
I took a distasteful joke toward Darren Drozdov. I'll explain that during the break.
Distasteful, all right. Sorry.
I see what you did there.
I couldn't help it.
Let's take care of our first bit of business. We'll come back. We'll talk about the big name that returned to Raw this past Monday, and also TNA, Kurt Angle. We mentioned him. He's got apparently big plans for 2014. We'll talk a little bit about that. We've got a huge Today in Wrestling History segment. January 4, very historical, especially for two particular years, and you'll hear about that coming up. Plus a John Cena weight loss program update. Also a Chris Benoit update. I'm sure Dan in Chicago is going to love that. Also AJ Styles. We'll talk a little bit about that. And WWE crossing over with the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, we'll talk about that as well. This is Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com.
You impressed me twice in 5 minutes. It took you years to do it. But
it took years to do it.
Exactly. You managed to pull. No, sir, that was pretty good.
And now, more Pro Wrestling Weekly with your host, Fearon Derry.
And quite honestly, in all due respect, your vision sucks.
But yet it's a vision anyway, and that vision's been going on.
Who was that horrible voice in the beginning of that? That guy stinks. Why'd you even use that guy? Oh, man, never mind.
You know, I ask myself that same question every week.
God,
Nick.
He's terrible.
This is Pro Wrestling Weekly.
A real deep voice like that. What a clown. Okay, I'm sorry.
As I said, I ask myself that question every week.
Should I tell him? Should I enlighten him with this information? Or
you can do that during the next break. How about that? This is Pro Wrestling Weekly.
I don't like
At least I think it is. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's romper room, as it seems to be here. Either way, it's on WBCB 1490 on your AM dial, as well as on WBCB1490.com. I'm your host, Fearon Derry, as well as Traffic Cop and quite a few other stigmas and things. I don't know. I do a bunch of different things here.
Yes.
At least I try to.
I've noticed that.
One of the things we're going to... one of the things we try to do is we talk about professional wrestling, because that's apparently what the show's supposed to be about. And one of the big things was the announced return by Triple H of Brock Lesnar. That's right. Lesnar, after taking a few months off to, I guess, do some hunting, maybe some fishing up in Minnesota, maybe spend a little time with the wifey, good old Sable. Maybe spending a little more time with the wifey. Now he's decided he wants to come back and wrestle, and he actually he has some set goals, because it was Triple H who announced him, and of course they had their feud over the course of 2013, and apparently they put that all in the past. I can only imagine how that went, that whole sorry about breaking your arm thing, whatever. But Nick, if you want to go to track 3 on the disc.
Certainly.
That's track 5.
My name is Kurt.
You're right. My mistake.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman. And as you can clearly see, the Beast is back. Now, in this age of transparency, my client has authorized me to inform you of his mission statement here in WWE. My client, Brock Lesnar, is not here to settle old scores. Brock has no old scores. You fight Brock Lesnar, you lose to Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar forgets about you. Nor is Brock Lesnar here as an instrument of revenge to do harm to those that did wrong to me, Paul Heyman. I have a forgiving heart. I put those beatings in my past because I'm a bigger man than any one of you. And besides, this isn't about me. This is about my client, Brock Lesnar. So here it is. Why is Brock Lesnar back in WWE? Here's what's best for business. My client, Brock Lesnar, hereby declares his desire to be the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. And what that means for John Cena and Randy Orton is that whomever emerges from their match at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view as the World Heavyweight Champion, the winner is ultimately the loser because the champion will then have to face the challenge of the self-declared number one contender, Brock Lesnar. You see, I don't really care whether it's Randy Orton or John Cena. As far as I'm concerned, there ain't nobody in this company or in this building that can stop me. Brock Lesnar. You see, I don't have to win a Royal Rumble match to be deserving enough for a championship match. I don't have to stand in some mysterious line for a title shot. As far as I'm concerned, that line starts right here behind me. That's right. And I dare anybody to come down here to try to do something about that. What's it? We might as well say goodnight right now because there's no one that's man enough to take Brock Lesnar up on that dare. My client, Brock Lesnar's life is like a t-shirt. Eat, sleep, conquer, repeat. What Brock Lesnar wants, Brock Lesnar takes. And what's for the taking is the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, and it will be taken by the man who will challenge the winner between John Cena and Randy Orton, and that man is the Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar.
Wait a minute.
You may have spoken too soon, Brock.
Mark Henry will step up. I guarantee it. Brock Lesnar opening up an opportunity. Here comes the world's strongest man. Boys, we got us a mega fight on our hands.
You kidding me?
Wow. Get it on. Brock Lesnar sends the line forms behind him. There's one man who takes exception to that. Mark Henry. Look at this. The 400-plus pounder making a beeline for the ring. And look at Lesnar. Lesnar didn't even allow Henry to get into the ring. Went right after Mark Henry. Didn't even allow Mark Henry to get into the
message. He understands. He understands. He understands. Well, someone had to be made an example of. And it's Mark Henry.
Oh, international calling off the beast. Thank God.
Primal yell.
Destruction.
A primal yell from Brock Lesnar following spearing through the barricade, spearing Mark Henry and then delivering an F5 on the 400-pound world's strongest man. Brock Lesnar proving that he's back, and we'll see. He might end up challenging somebody and probably end up losing again. Let's go ahead and get to the phones. John from the Northeast Philly. John, what's going on? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Fearon. How you doing?
Not too bad. What's going on?
You know, it was interesting. I was listening earlier when you were talking about Vince McMahon with the midlife crisis that he has with particular superstars, and we're talking about Diesel going back to the jet black hair and all that stuff, and it made me wonder. I mean, it's the obvious joke, which is that Vince McMahon isn't just the member; he's also the president. Oh, geez, the hair club for men. Well, I mean, they did have Cy Sperling as one of the celebrity guests at WrestleMania 10, if you remember. So, I don't know, but is Cy even around? Oh, there's a good where are they now? What's going on with Cy Sperling 20 years later? And you ever notice, all their commercials, it always involves Just for Men and the Men's Warehouse, and they're not on Spike TV anymore, but that's not necessarily TV for men or anybody for that matter. But at the same time, right. It's a good point to make. I mean, it's kind of like brand recognition. I mean, they want to put over their older superstars or entertainers or performers or the artists formerly known as wrestlers, whatever he calls them now. It's like you just can't get over the fact that, these guys built this company, but, they got older as the company did. And it's like, we want to keep putting them over, but we don't want them to appear young. But then you get young, successful talent in a guy like Daniel Bryan, who will never truly get the break he deserves. Or CM Punk, who did have successful title runs, but is constantly getting put in these storylines that just don't work, or put in the matches that don't work. Instead, we'll bring back Kevin Nash, and we'll try to make something out of him with Triple H, and have a feud with him, was just ill-timed and ill-placed and shouldn't have happened to begin with. And then you leave a guy like Daniel Bryan out there who the fans want, and everybody was visibly upset in that ring that night. Those fans were letting them hear it, and you can see the look on their faces. Oh, well, we're not putting over the right guy, but we're not going to give the fans what they want.
I don't know where to. I'm pretty much you're spot on with everything. Although in between what you had mentioned with CM Punk and kind of his storyline with the Shield now and everything he was doing in 2011 with in early 2012 with Kevin Nash and whatnot, he did have a 434-day championship reign. So
yeah. But
to go, to side with your point, all during that reign, he was kind of put on the back burner to Cena. The champion was kind of always playing second fiddle to John Cena, almost akin to back in the day, whether it was Savage as champion or Flair or whoever else, they were always on the back burner to what Hogan was doing.
Even when Hogan left, they were still on the back burner. When Bret Hart was the face, they were still kind of inkling towards, these guys are technically proficient, but, we got our main eventer, we got our superstar, but he's not with us no more, but we just can't quite get over that. It's like, you just said it, 434 days where CM Punk was champion, but fans will always remember it as 434 days where Cena wasn't, but you wouldn't know that with the amount of camera time he got. And the matches that Punk had weren't, spectacular or exceptional. They really didn't have any build-up for him. So, in the long scheme of things, it's like he doesn't want to move on from the fact that those guys just can't cut the mustard anymore, as Hulk Hogan said about 6. Just can't cut the mustard anymore, brother. But at the same time, it's like he doesn't want to get over the fact that they're getting old, but he doesn't want to accept the fact that they're old. But he does want to move on from the word wrestling. It's like, I want to move on from these guys, but I want to move on from the word that is associated with them.
Well, I think, I don't want to obviously speak for Vince McMahon. That's kind of a dangerous thing to do, but it almost gives the impression that he's embarrassed by what he does. That's what I almost feel like. It's like, all right, this is making me money, but it's a shameful thing. It's like he's an adult entertainer or something like that. And I don't mean sports entertainment. You know, I mean 18+ entertainment.
Yes. You don't want to speak for me.
And I mean, he
doesn't want to speak for me.
I mean, given how much he, oh dear, given how much in the past he's talked about his genetic jackhammer, that may not be too far from the truth.
Yeah, it's in the exploding limo where you can see my foot sticking out, but it's not. You know?
Oh dear.
And that's a good segue into your Benoit story right there, because if we do recall, that was how the news story when that whole incident went down. I remember it.
Yeah, that was supposed to be, you know, the whole, you know, who blew up Vince's limo. They were trying to, I guess, go for like a who shot JR kind of thing from Dallas. And then the whole Chris Benoit thing happened, and that just nipped that in the bud instantly.
Yeah, it was almost as dramatic as when Mario got missing in a time machine and his brother Luigi had to save him in an education.
All right.
I was almost as in suspense.
Once we get to that point, all right. Thanks, John. Thanks so much for the call. I'm up against it here. Mario is missing reference. All right, Happy New Year, John. Kidding me? Mario is missing reference. All right, but he did. Yeah, I think that was a good. He did say it was a good segue to talk Benoit before completely crashing it into the wall. But yes, Chris Benoit back in the archives. According to a report from the Wrestling Observer, Chris Benoit will be included in tape library footage on the soon-to-be-launched WWE Network. A disclaimer will reportedly play prior to any footage that includes Benoit. Now, the policy reflects WWE trying to find the balance on including Benoit in historical features, but not drawing attention to him in a promotional kind of way. And Vince McMahon actually foreshadowed this policy in a WWE magazine interview published way back in September of 2009, saying, "It's not right to pretend he didn't exist." Although they've been doing that for the better part of, well, since 2007, really. "It's one thing to include him as part of a historical perspective, which I believe is okay, and it's another thing to promote him, which is not okay." He goes on to say, "The situation is very similar to that of O.J. Simpson. Despite his controversy, O.J. was still a part of the NFL scene. You can't deny that he existed."
That was actually something, you sort of read my mind. Vince McMahon sort of read my mind, because it's the fact, I was watching, The Naked Gun was on Comedy Central the other day, and O.J. Simpson has, I would say, not really a big part, but he's got like a recurring role in that movie, and I'm saying, like, if we can keep him, if we can show his movies and stuff, then why can't we at least show Benoit's, like, not really a big thing, but, like, I don't know, just a small match, something like that, a part of a paper, like a DVD or something like that. It's not really a big deal. It's just something that was a part of history.
Yeah, and that's, and you have to realize there's a lot that factors into it. I mean, they're trying to toe this corporate line. There's a lot of representative nature. They've got shareholders to answer to. Yeah. There's a lot that goes into it. Nick?
Well, what happened to Chris Benoit was tragic. It was certainly different than what happened with O.J. Simpson.
Yeah,
I mean, the results, unfortunately, were something of a similar nature.
Yeah, death was involved in both, and really that's where the comparison kind of begins and ends.
You had a sick situation, unfortunately, versus someone who happens to be sick. As far as I'm concerned, O.J. Simpson, you know, and no, I don't watch the movies with him in them anymore. I just don't, you know. I wanted to ask you about something.
Yes.
Do you really think that Vince McMahon is embarrassed by what he's doing today? I can't say it. I mean,
I shouldn't say that he's embarrassed by what he's doing, because obviously it's making him a lot of money.
Exactly, it's giving him a great lifestyle. I mean,
it feels like he's trying to fit in with high society, and it's just not working. It's almost like, you remember that short-lived spin-off of Three's Company, The Ropers?
Yes.
Where Stanley
right.
and they go into that upper end neighborhood and they try to fit in, and it just doesn't work a little bit. That's what I feel like Vince McMahon is like.
You think so? I mean, you're closer to the situation than I am. I just, like I said, I've seen Vince McMahon for
he's trying to find
years, and
he's trying to find a way to continue to do what he does, but evolve it so it becomes a little bit more acceptable by high society. So by doing that, he's taking out the word wrestling, because
I doubt it's ever going to happen. If that's true.
Oh, it isn't. No, I know it's not going to happen, but this is his delusional mind that's doing this. He thinks, all right, well, even though, you know, what they have a ring and there are two guys in it and they're doing this thing that looks like wrestling, if we don't call it wrestling, maybe people won't think of it as wrestling.
Well, it was their decision in the 90s to call it entertainment as opposed to wrestling. Gorilla Monsoon was probably the last to give in because for years, he'd get real indignant if you questioned it.
Absolutely.
He would get very indignant about it. Like, how dare you? And a lot of them, even, what was his name? Dr. D. David Schultz smacked John Stossel.
That's going back 30 years ago.
I'm just saying, but the point I'm making is it was their choice then, so why have a problem with it now?
Well, they're also back in the 70s and 80s. There wasn't an internet that was bringing everything out into the forefront. No, there wasn't as much information out there.
But there was later on, cable kind of reduced some things because some wrestlers, as you probably know, wrestled in different places under 3 or 4 different names. Hulk Hogan being one of them.
Yeah.
And Andre the Giant being another.
They could have different personas in different parts of the country.
Because they were not going to be spotted anywhere else. But finally, when the advent of either network or cable, they had to come down, okay, I want to take this name, and that's going to be it.
Yeah, although, people have still changed gimmicks over the years.
Gimmick is one thing, but changing your name, in other words, Hulk Hogan, I think, was Sterling Golden or Golden Sterling out in the West Coast, whereas over here he was Hulk Hogan. Okay.
At some point, he was Hulk Boulder.
But we still, I know what you mean.
Yeah, even later on, he was Mr. America in 2005, something like that. All right, we're way late for a break, so let's go ahead and take care of that. We'll come back. We've got Today in Wrestling History. We've got Ed the Showstopper with a look at the local scene. Still a bunch of news and notes to go, and Lucas chomping at the bit to get on the microphone, so we'll give him that chance as well on the other side. This is Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com.
Pro Wrestling Weekly presents Today in Wrestling History, January 4. On this date in 1999, WCW Monday Nitro aired live from Atlanta, Georgia. In the main event, Hulk Hogan pinned Kevin Nash to win the WCW World Heavyweight Championship in the infamous Finger Poke of Doom incident.
If you're even thinking about changing the channel to our competition, fans, do not. Because we understand that Mick Foley, who wrestled here one time as Cactus Jack, is going to win their world title. Going to put some butts in the seat.
That was WCW announcer Tony Schiavone mentioning that same night on Monday Night Raw, taped in Worcester, Massachusetts, Mankind defeated The Rock in a no disqualification match to win the WWF World Heavyweight Championship. On this date in 2010, WWE Monday Night Raw aired live from Dayton, Ohio. In the main event, Randy Orton pinned Kofi Kingston. This episode also featured Bret the Hitman Hart's return to WWE since the Montreal Screwjob 12 years earlier. Meanwhile, that same night on TNA, Impact aired live from Orlando, Florida. In the main event, AJ Styles pinned Kurt Angle to retain the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. This was TNA's first episode going head-to-head with Monday Night Raw. This has been Today in Wrestling History, January 4.
Hi, this is Jim Cornette, and you're listening to Pro Wrestling Weekly with Fearon Derry on 1490 WBCB.
Welcome back to Pro Wrestling Weekly here on 1490 WBCB and online at WBCB1490.com. Fearon Derry here with you alongside Lucas the Intern and Nick Cataldi, turning dials, pushing buttons.
Yay!
Had to get that in once a show. And as you heard, yes, a very significant day in history as you had TNA and WWE Monday Night Raw going head-to-head for the first time. TNA, they came out firing at all cylinders. I remember it from 3 years ago. They brought in Hulk Hogan. They brought in Ric Flair. They brought in Jeff Hardy. Your guy, Lucas.
Yeah. I hope he comes back soon. I'm just waiting. I love CM Punk, but at the same time, once Jeff Hardy comes back, there's going to be a little bit of friction between who I'm going to root for, because if you guys remember, CM Punk was the guy who retired Jeff Hardy, or quote-unquote retired him from WWE.
Sent him out of WWE. Sent him packing, yeah.
So it's just going to be... I'm sort of contemplating what's going to happen if he does make a return. And that's another thing I'm wondering, is these wrestlers, you see Kurt Angle, you want Kurt Angle to come back, and you want to see Jeff Hardy come back, but you got to think, they're getting older, and at the same time, most of the time, their circumstances, it's either I'll keep wrestling here, or I'll just not wrestle anymore. And I feel like, though, because Jeff Hardy and Kurt Angle both started in WWE, I feel like they should end their careers in WWE. It's just like, I don't know, just something, throwing it out there.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. The question is whether, over the course of their career, whether they burn their bridge over there. I mean, Jeff has had some out-of-the-ring issues, we'll call it that, and really, to a degree, as has Kurt Angle. So, and you know, the way that they left they left WWE and went to TNA, whether that burns some bridges, ultimately it's up to Vince McMahon. He's the one who's pulling the strings, although some of those strings are being handed over to Triple H, and that's what allowed connections with Bruno Sammartino, connections with Randy Savage, connections with the Ultimate Warrior to happen over the last few years. So who knows? We'll see.
But he has to understand, too, that, like, if you get rid of them, it's not like they're just going to stop wrestling. I mean, there's some of these guys are still in their career. They may just want to go and wrestle for Ring of Honor and TNA. So it's not like you can't look at it like The Godfather said. It's nothing personal. It's strictly business. You got to keep to a business standpoint. You're not just going to take away his career if you're...
I thought The Godfather said it's time once again for everybody to come aboard the Ho train.
Wrong Godfather.
Wrong Godfather.
Marlon Brando Godfather. I'm talking...
I got nothing.
Well, go ahead. Make him an offer he can't refuse, Fearon.
Yeah.
I didn't think this was that kind of show.
Well, I don't know. You said you got nothing, so I was helping you.
There you go. Well, since you made an old school reference, we should talk about Raw going old school this Monday. It's a segue.
Okay.
There you go. Take note.
All right. This coming Monday, WWE Monday Night Raw has its old school theme. Past stars advertised to appear include Ric Flair, Bob Backlund, Ted DiBiase, IRS, Jesse James, and Billy Gunn. The New Age Outlaws. Okay. Diamond Dallas Page, Roddy Piper, Mean Gene Okerlund, Booker T, Rikishi, and Scotty Duhati. Also to advertise for Raw in Baltimore is CM Punk against Roman Reigns. And Paul Heyman has said that Brock Lesnar will be in attendance as well for a old school moment, from what he said in the interview.
Yes.
So does that mean he's just going to come out?
It's a pretty jam-packed show. They always like to kick off the new year with a bang.
Does that mean he's coming out in, like, the black trunks again, or like the...
I don't know.
Is that what we're talking about? I don't know.
Well, I guess we'll have to tune in Monday to find out.
Maybe it's like Goldberg makes a return, like, oh my God, we don't want to see this match twice.
What's that? That's a clip from my open son of... Yeah, that's about what I feel about that. And speaking of that, let's go to the phones. We got Ed from Northeast Philly. Ed, what's going on?
Good afternoon. We have a reschedulement for ECWA tonight's show down where was supposed to be tonight, rescheduled for the end of the month due to the Eagles game.
Oh, due to the Eagles game. Okay. Well, I guess the snow. I thought the snow would be some sort of a factor, but I guess most of it's cleared out around here.
I guess that too.
Maybe they figure, all right, we're not too far from Lincoln Financial Field. There's obviously the huge Eagles playoff game going on that they didn't know about until 6 days ago. So, all right, they're rescheduling it to the end of the month. They figure they can put it on a Saturday and won't have to worry about playoff games by that point.
And AJ Styles is coming to CCW next month. Play us a doubleheader with Tommy Dreamer.
Yeah, AJ Styles is getting around now that his contract's up with TNA. In fact, he's also going to be in town coming up in February for Ring of Honor.
And don't forget On Point tonight in Sewell, New Jersey. Kingston and Bulldozer.
Yes, Matt Tremont. Yes, on Point Wrestling.
And WWE's in town the next couple of nights.
Yeah, they'll be here in Philly for the SmackDown taping this Tuesday. That should be interesting.
And Casey Plaza next Friday.
Alrighty.
I think that's Scranton.
Yeah, that's definitely a bit of a hike, especially if the weather remains like this.
Yeah.
All right, thanks so much for the call, Ed. Greatly appreciate the look at the local scene. Certainly can't go wrong with that. Got a few minutes left here. We got time for some news and notes. Well, Well, I was going to talk a little bit of Kurt Angle. Basically, there's a match coming up at the Genesis-themed Impact. It's going to be he and Bobby Roode, and if Angle loses, he leaves TNA forever and can't accept a Hall of Fame induction
What he's
in
already
TNA.
inducted. So.
Even though he's already inducted, exactly. That doesn't make... It didn't make sense then. It doesn't make sense now. That it's going to be a cage match coming up in a couple weeks, that Genesis-themed Impact. Well, we got... here's something kind of interesting. The WWE stocks. Now, I try not to get into numbers too much here, and people have complained about the WWE product. I know I've been among them. There have been a lot of questionable decisions made in terms of booking, but one thing that can't be denied, WWE is making money. As far as... They opened 2013 selling their stock at $8.03 a share, and it almost doubled within the last year. So, while they aren't exactly where they started when they went public almost 15 years ago now, they're not doing too bad. They are making money, so I have a hunch that a lot of the decisions that they've made are going to continue, although, I don't know, I kind of want to listen in on that conference call to hear Vince squirm a little bit when he has to explain why the buy rates for Battleground, Hell in a Cell, Survivor Series, and TLC were as dismal as they were. But on a brighter note, let's go to Lucas for this. This is right up your alley because, as you've said in the past, you're a nerd.
Yes.
A former WWE wrestler and broadcaster scoring an acting gig for Star Trek.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Okay. So a former WWE wrestler and broadcaster, Matt Stryker, was actually cast in a TV film for Star Trek called Star Trek Equinox, The Night of Time. Again, it's a television film. It's not like it's coming to theaters or anything. But again, it's like a
TV movie, all right.
Still a big deal for him. He said, I did some acting as a child, movies like Wise Guys and everything, and some movies like that. But really, my time with WWE has prepared me greatly for this next stage of my life. Stryker will play the part of Romulan commander, so I don't know if it's a major part or not, but still, you got a movie gig. That's something.
To give you an idea of my nerddom, I've heard the term Romulan, but couldn't tell you what a Romulan is. And I'm sure my dad is probably shaking his fist from heaven down at me at the mere mention of that.
I'm more of a Star Wars fan, so you can ask me anything. Don't ask me anything about Star Wars, because there's some stuff I forgot about, but I'm more of a Star Wars fan than a Star Trek fan.
You've just opened yourself up for all kinds of...
Oh, yeah, great. No.
Oh, dear. All right. This I thought was kind of interesting. Your boy Cena.
Yeah.
He's launching a weight loss program. I got this one. It's a new weight loss program created by John Cena. It's officially launched in the U.S. market, according to a press release issued Thursday. 10 Weeks Body Change features Cena acting as a personal coach in the 10-week program, which retails at $99.
Wait, is this a DVD, or is this like you can actually go to a place and...
No, it's a DVD set.
Oh, yappiters.
You were hoping you'd actually... I don't think, you would get John Cena for 10 weeks and only pay $99.
No, I'm saying not like that, but it's like sort of like DDP yoga. There's like a little center you can go to, like that sort of thing.
Well, no, that was the set of DVDs also. I have the DDP yoga DVDs.
Okay, never mind.
That's all right.
That's what I just said.
But wait, if you call within the next 15 minutes, absolutely free, you'll get allegations of a needle in your backside. Moving on. The Rock skipping Mania 30. Dwayne The Rock Johnson stating on Twitter there are currently no plans for him to appear at WrestleMania 30. However, he did not rule out returning. He said, between Vince, Brock, and myself, our WrestleMania 30 plan was Brock versus Rock. No plans for 30 now, but possibly Mania 31. So we'll see about that. Also, AJ Styles, I mentioned a little bit ago, he's going back to Ring of Honor. He'll be facing Roderick Strong tonight at their event in Nashville, Tennessee. First time that Styles has been in Ring of Honor in 8 years. They're also advertising Chris Hero against Kevin Steen, another big free agent. And Roddy Piper is going to be in the house for that. And as I mentioned earlier with Ed, for the Ring of Honor 12th anniversary show on February 21st and their TV taping the next night, both of those are going to be held in Philadelphia at the National Guard Armory. So if you want to see AJ Styles, that's a good chance to get it locally. And finally, I mentioned the Eagles. Of course, they're playing tonight against New Orleans. Championship belt worn by a Philadelphia Eagle on NBC. You got this one real quick, Lucas?
Yeah, I'll take it. So, WWE Championship belt worn by the Philadelphia... Yeah, you already said that. The Philadelphia Eagles running back LaShawn McCoy carried a replica version of the World Heavyweight Championship during an interview on, I think it was Sunday, I believe?
Sunday, yeah, NBC, after beating the Cowboys.
Okay. McCoy wore the belt in honor of both Eagles winning the NFC Eastern Division and having the most rushing yards of any running back in the NFL for the season. It's a funny thing because on Twitter, if you guys saw Raw, LeBron James tweeted...
that he wants a belt now,
where
too?
Can I get one of those sweet belts? Because, they've been giving out a lot of those replica belts. And Cena said something about I'll take care of it. And then The Rock actually gave LeBron one as a birthday present.
Great stuff. That's going to do it for us. We'll be back next week with who knows what kind of insanity. This is Pro Wrestling Weekly on WBCB.
1490 WBCB, Levittown, Fairless Hills, Trenton.